Hello, everyone, and welcome to another movie review. I am happy that you can join me today. If you are new to this channel, click the subscribe button below for future notifications and updates. Click the like button to share this content with other movie fans. So, this weekend is being compared to last year's Barbenheimer. People are wondering who is going to come out on top, Wicked or Gladiator 2. Now, I saw similarities between Barbie and Oppenheimer, and if you want to watch my analysis, you can look for it on the Nightglow Entertainment channel. And it seems that for me, there is one thing Wicked has in common with Gladiator 2. Both films retcon perfectly great films that don't deserve to be retconned. But if I was to predict which film is going to take the number one spot at the box office this weekend, my bet is on Wicked. Wicked is a musical fantasy film. It was based on the Broadway musical of the same name, which was based on a novel, which was based on The Wizard of Oz, which was based on a children's book that was published back in 1900. It was directed by John M. Chu, who directed Step Up 2, Step Up 3, In the Heights, and Crazy Rich Asians. So I am a fan of his. Wicked stars Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande. It was released in theaters on Thursday, November 21st, and the running time is 2 hours, 40 minutes. Wicked starts off by telling the story of the Witch of the West, Elphaba Throop, played by Cynthia Erivo. Because she was born with green skin, her father emotionally abuses her, but he dotes on her sister Nessa Rose. Fast forward to at least 10 years, if not more, Nessa Rose is on her way to Shiz University to study magic and sorcery. Her father suggests that Elphaba accompanies her as a sort of a chaperone. However, when Elphaba uses her raw powers to protect Nessa Rose, the chief headmistress of the college, Madame Morrible, played by Michelle Yeoh, decides to take Elphaba on as a private student, and she decides Elphaba rooms with Galinda Upland, played by Ariana Grande. They start off as enemies, but when they become friends, the movie focuses on their friendship. During their time at the college, they both develop feelings for Prince Fiyero, played by Jonathan Bailey, and Elphaba becomes a budding animal rights activist when she learns that animals are no longer allowed to teach classes at the university, including her goat history professor, Dr. Dillamond. When Elphaba gets an invite to Emerald City by the Wizard of Oz, she takes Galinda along, and together they find out that the wizard and Madame Morrible are not what they seem to be. I thought about this film for quite a long time, between now and last night when I saw it. And when the closing credits came on, I realized I did not like it as much as the audience. And then I went on Rotten Tomatoes, and I clearly disagree with everyone when it comes to this movie. I cannot bring myself to give it 4 stars, 5 stars, because all of my issues with this film boils down to the story. I cannot give it 1 star, even though for me, Wicked is probably my least favorite musical of all time. And that's probably one of the issues. I have watched so many musicals over the course of my life. I'm a big fan of old Hollywood musicals, starring Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers, Gene Kelly, Judy Garland. So that could be a reason why I don't like this film, because of my perspective. But the question is, what am I to do? And what is the score I should give this film based on how I see it? Well, let me share the good news first. John M. Chu is qualified to make this film. I don't really have any issues with the direction of this film. The directing was actually great. The cinematography, the choreography, the costume design, the set designs, the special effects were all great. I would not be surprised if Wicked gets Oscar nominations in January. Um, that's what I saw. There is also the topic of DEI hiring. Cynthia Erivo is the perfect person to play Elphaba. This is a character who is treated badly because she's green. Well, that's racism. The school doesn't know what to make of her since no one has ever met someone who is green. And Ariana Grande is also a smart choice. She used to be on the Nickelodeon show Victorious, which took place at a performing arts high school. I used to watch that show, so I knew that she could act and sing. What I didn't know is she can sing opera. When you hear her sing certain notes in certain songs, I was genuinely surprised that she has the voice for opera. So, what is my problem with this movie? Well, I never saw the musical on Broadway because I was not interested in spending all that money on a show that was not original. But when the trailer for this film came out, I had a change of mind. But the cheapest Broadway tickets, keep in mind, folks, I live in New York City. The cheapest Broadway tickets for Wicked are $120 per ticket if you see the show on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. If you see it on a weekend, those tickets are $200. And I wanted to bring my mother with me, so we're talking 2 tickets, that's $400 right there. So I ditched the Broadway plans and I read the synopsis of the Broadway musical before going into the theater. Based on the synopsis and the 1939 movie, I have concluded that Act 1 of the play is covered in Part 1, and Act 2 is covered by Part 2, which premieres in November 2025. We won't flat out see the retcon until Part 2, but you do see a glimpse of it in this film. In The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy pours water on the witch, thereby killing her, so it stands out like a sore thumb when Elphaba cries in a certain scene. But Part 2 explains how she is able to cry and still live. Then there is a scene that stays true to the 1939 film. There is a scene where Elphaba gets so angry she turns a bouquet of poppy flowers into flying flowers that will put people to sleep. So she puts her history class to sleep except Fiyero. The same way she put everyone to sleep in the fields except the Scarecrow in the 1939 movie. Those details together confuses my mind. Another thing I don't like is this story gives the impression they want to turn seemingly simple characters into complex characters. Elphaba's green skin is a problem. And then there is this scene in the film where Madame Morrible gives Elphaba a lesson in moving a coin by using magic. And it's clear that Elphaba's magical powers comes from a place of anger. If Elphaba is not angry, she can't tap into her magical powers. And instead of Madame Morrible helping her retrieve her powers from a place of emotion, a positive emotion like joy and love, she decides to do nothing. She's just sitting there fascinated by how powerful Elphaba is. And then that's when I realized that Madame Morrible does not have good intentions. She's no good. So the story is set up to make you feel sorry for Elphaba. But I don't want to feel sorry for Elphaba because she ends up being the Wicked Witch, the antagonist, the villain in Dorothy's story. And then there is Galinda. She is mean and passive aggressive to Elphaba. So I am wondering, where is the good witch of the North we met in Dorothy's story? Do you see what I mean when I say that this story retcons Dorothy's story? I am not trying to go on a rant. I am trying to be as objective as possible. But the same way that we can all agree that we don't need a Gladiator sequel, we also don't need this Wicked story. The Wizard of Oz is a classic film that should not be touched. It is one of those 1930s films that has stand the test of time and that generations have, fallen in love with this story. So, in my opinion, they should leave The Wizard of Oz alone. I also want to touch on a point that I made earlier about telling original stories. I am aware that there is no such thing as original stories anymore. Every possible fictional story that you can tell has already been told. But what makes Wicked lacking originality is the writer using a pre-existing world, in this case Emerald City and Oz, and telling a story about pre-existing characters like the Witches of Oz. And then the story retcons Dorothy's story, and we didn't have to do that. The writer of The Wizard of Oz, L. Frank Baum, wrote a total of 14 stories that took place in this magical world of Oz. The Wizard of Oz happened to be the first story in that series, and no one thought about tapping into that treasure of stories. I would have been okay if the writer of Wicked created a new fictional world and a new group of fictional characters inspired by The Wizard of Oz, because then it would have made sense that people from Munchkin Land don't look like Munchkins. There is a character in this movie named Bok. He is from Munchkin Land, but he is taller than the average Munchkin, and he does not look like a Munchkin. So, in the end, I am going to give this film 3 out of 5 stars. And I am giving it a high score because of John Chu and the cast. I will watch part 2 next year, but since I read the synopsis of the Broadway musical, I predict I am not going to like the story in part 2. So that is all for today, my friends. Thanks a lot for watching as always, and I will see you next time with another movie review. Take care, and let me know in the comment box below what you thought of Wicked. Have fun at the movies.